Hello and welcome to Dad Swebb Talk Sports. I'm Swebb.
And I'm Dad.
And we are the dad and daughter duo talking about all of our favorite sports moments from the past few weeks. How's it going, Dad?
Pretty good, Swebb. Long time no see.
Yes, I just saw you yesterday, Sunday. We spent the weekend together in South Carolina.
Yeah.
But more importantly, this is our 50th show. 5-0.
Wow.
Can you believe
Time
it?
flies when you're having a good time, huh, Swebb?
Time flies. So they say.
Yes. And you were down here breaking my chops all weekend about one thing or another?
That's what I do. Just trying to keep you on your toes, Dad.
Oh, jeez. Thanks. I feel like a ballerina.
You're not that light on your toes. So, Dad, it's been 2 weeks since we last recorded.
Yes.
What have you been up to?
Working, Swebb, working. Watching a lot of games, a lot of different sports. A lot of sports. I went to Duke Lacrosse game down in Jacksonville, Florida, Saturday before last. A nice Duke win. My man Andrew McAdory scored 2 goals. Then they played again this past Saturday. Watched that. And scored 3 goals, and they beat St. Joseph's. So, and I think they play Michigan next Saturday at 12 noon.
So you've gone to see some lacrosse games. Anything else that you've been up to, Dad?
No. And I'll miss part of next week's game because I'll be on a plane, Swebb. Coming to you-know-where. Headed north.
Coming back to New York like he never left.
Headed north.
Well, that's good luck because I went for a run this morning at about 9 a.m. and it was 28 degrees, but feels like 10. And the wind certainly picked up as I was running through Central Park at different points during the run. I tried to map it out so I'd be as close to home when I finished. But I still had to walk about a half a mile home in the freezing cold. So have fun in New York next week, Dad.
Wasn't it a lot more fun to run this weekend down here?
Yes, I ran a few times in South Carolina. It was about 60. I think one of the days that I wore shorts. So, yes, but we got to do what we got to do, and summer will be here before we know it. So if we make the excuses that it's too cold to run for the first 2 months of the year, then it's not going to be pretty come June.
Oh, man.
Plus, I'm running in a race down in Charleston that is 6.2 miles. It's a 10K. So I need to get my running in because I am not ready to run a 10K.
When is that race going to be?
That is the first weekend in April. I don't like to really run anything over about 4-5 miles max. So this is one of the handful of times that I'll run 6.2. But I am not in good shape. Let's just say I was gasping for air in Central Park this morning.
Well, you realize in April, down here, it's probably going to be in the 80s.
The last time I ran the race, it was in the high 60s, low 70s that weekend. I'll take 70s. I can run in shorts. That'll be fine. But we just got to get there first.
Good luck, Swebb.
Thanks. They have walking slots for walkers if you want to walk it.
Good luck, Swebb.
It's a great way to see downtown Charleston.
Good luck, Swebb.
Will you be along the race route at least?
No.
Will you pick us up when it's over?
Yeah, I'll pick you up when it's over. Yeah, no problem.
Okay. All right. So let's kick off this 50th episode of Dad and Swebb Talk Sports.
Wait,
things
what do you
to
mean
talk
us?
about.
Pick us up. Who's us?
Pick up.
Pick
Us. Mom and I are doing the race.
She's doing the race?
Yes, she's walking.
She's walking 6 miles?
Yes.
Oh, man.
She's done it. She's done it more times than I have. I'll be running, but she's walking. So you're going to have to massage her feet after it's over.
You know what loco it means? Loco?
Yeah, Mom and I do Duolingo. We both know what loco means.
Yeah, okay.
Are you going to give us foot rubs when it's all over?
Swebb, you have anything you want to talk about today besides this nonsense?
So I'll take that as a yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. You heard it here, people. Dad will be giving out foot rubs after Mom and I do our 10K race in April. We'll keep you posted.
This girl is nuts.
All right. Episode 50. We've got two big things to talk about today. The Knicks and the first half of the NBA season. So it's currently All-Star break. Sunday night, we had two Knicks players, Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, in the All-Star game. But let's start off by talking about the first half of the season for the Knicks. They are 36-18. That's third in the Eastern Conference, tied for fifth in the entire NBA. Dad, this is the best record that the Knicks have had since, I think, 1972-1973 season going into the All-Star break.
They're playing great. And what do they have, 36 wins? 50 is usually a magic number. They have a chance for 55 wins if they keep playing the way they are playing. And OG hasn't even played the last 5 or 6 games because he's been out injured. And Mitchell Robinson hasn't played at all yet this year. Hopefully he'll be back right after the All-Star break. And this could get very interesting. OG
Anunoby, as you mentioned, hasn't played since he got hurt on February 1st in the game against the Lakers. He has been out with a bad foot. So he's got 2 weeks that he's been resting, hopefully recuperating. The Knicks won't play again until Thursday against the Chicago Bulls, so he's got a few more days to heal up. And as you mentioned, Mitchell Robinson, he's been out the whole entire season with a bad ankle, which was an injury from last season at the tail end of the season, but really an injury that was lingering throughout the season. It healed, then re-aggravated it. They've said that it looks like he could be in the lineup by March.
They'd originally said by December, maybe at the outside January. Here we are, the middle of February, third week of February, and now we're talking about maybe by March.
Well, he's been cleared for practice, so that's the first step.
He's been practicing for a few weeks now.
This is the piece that we've been needing. If you paid attention to the game against the Celtics last week, the Knicks don't match up well against a team like the Boston Celtics, which is not good because when it comes to competing for the Eastern Conference, you're going to have to go through the Boston Celtics and or the Cleveland Cavaliers. And the matchup was not good against the game against the Celtics last week. So Mitchell Robinson could bring a defensive presence. He can also bring some offensive rebounding. And he can bring some just general more size that the Knicks have been lacking. And that's what makes them playing the Boston Celtics with the size that they have in their front court so tough to match up against.
I would love, yes, that's all true. One more piece, I would love to have another shooter. If they could pick up a shooter, or if somebody was cut from a team that can shoot the ball, if they could pick up a shooter to play 5-10 minutes a game, come in, hit a few shots, or at least be a threat to hit some shots, that would be like perfect. You know, somebody like Dante.
Well, I would argue
somebody like Dante DiVincenzo.
Oh, well, I think you're just enamored with having Dante DiVincenzo on the roster. I would argue that Deuce McBride has been able to make those shots. Cam Payne, Landry Shamet has even come on when given the time to play. We know that as the season winds down and the Knicks go into the postseason, Tom Thibodeau is not going to go with a 9-10 man roster. Or rotation. He's probably going to go with 8 players, maybe 9, depending on how close the games are. So when you think about the roster from top to bottom, you've got Jalen Brunson, obviously. You've got Josh Hart, who is undersized, plays that 4 position as someone who's a bit undersized. You've got OG Anunoby, when healthy, slots into that that 3 position. You've got Karl Anthony Towns. You have a good, solid roster there. You've got Mikal Bridges at the 2. So you've got a good roster there. There's not going to be room, I think, as you get into the postseason for 3 guards to be playing off the bench. You're probably going to have 2 that get some solid minutes, and I think that's going to be Cam Payne and Deuce McBride. And then now you've got Mitchell Robinson coming back. Not to mention that Precious Achiuwa and Ariel Huck-Porty have played really well when given the chance to play, especially Precious Achiuwa stepping in and playing some quality and more minutes than he's played, obviously, in the course of his career this season because of the injury to Mitchell Robinson. So when you start to think about that rotation going into the end of the season, I'm not sure that there's room for a shooter. I think that's going to have to be someone like Deuce McBride. I think that's going to have to be someone like Deuce McBride and Cam Payne hitting those open shots. And when Mikal Bridges is hot, he can also hit those shots as well. And Jalen Brunson, he's a guaranteed bucket.
Yeah, but you know what? You know how in baseball you can never have enough pitching, and it never hurts to have another pitcher? Same thing. If you could just have one more shooter. Listen, there's no doubt about it. Knicks have one of the best teams in the league, but it's all going to come down in the playoffs. It's all going to come down to matchups, who they match up with. Boston, Philadelphia, Cleveland is real good. That Cleveland might be the best team in the whole league.
They have the second best record in the league. I would say the Knicks, they need Mitchell Robinson more than they need a shooter, because they can't compete with the Boston Celtics without Mitchell Robinson.
Or Cleveland. You know how much size Cleveland has?
Right. So if we're talking about shooters, I think we've got that. What the Knicks need is they need Mitchell Robinson to come back and be healthy and stay healthy once he's back. Because I would love to see a rotation every once in a while where it's Jalen Brunson, maybe Bridges and OG Anunoby, or Bridges and Hart, and then run Karl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson on the court at the same time, because that allows for Karl Anthony Towns to maybe play a little bit away from the basket at times. He doesn't have to defend the big man in the post, whichever, if it's Boston or if it's Cleveland, he doesn't really match up well with those types of guys. So if you can have someone with a defensive presence like Mitchell Robinson there to add that support on defense, that's what they're missing.
Yeah, I agree. There's no doubt about it. They're too short and they need more size. There's no doubt about it. And Mitchell Robinson is the perfect big man. That's why they didn't make any trades. They didn't make a trade for a big man because they knew he was coming back. And with Achiuwa, Robinson, Towns, and Huck-Porty, that should be enough. And Huck-Porty has gotten better and better as the season's going on. And Achiuwa's played excellent.
So I think this is really, yes, as a fan, you're never satisfied. You want more. When you really like something, you want more. You want as many pieces as you can have, but the reality is the biggest piece, the 2 pieces that they need to be healthy are OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson. And then they're a different team. So Thursday I mentioned that they're playing the Chicago Bulls. Friday they play at Cleveland. Sunday at Boston. So this is a tough stretch for them, but also a big test to see if they can keep up with the top 2 teams in the East.
Yeah, it's Sunday afternoon, 1:00. I think it's an ESPN game or ABC game against Boston. Friday against Cleveland. Cleveland is tough, and they made a trade at the deadline that brought in another real good player. I forget who it is right now, but they're tough. They're tough. There's no doubt about it. They got a lot of firepower. They got a lot of size, and they've learned. And they have a lot of players that have learned how to win, which in the past few years they were good, but they didn't know how to win. Now they know how to win key games.
So the Knicks, they'll have a big test this week, but from what I've seen, I'm very pleased with the way that they've played in the first half of the season. And now it's just about those two big pieces coming back healthy and no one getting hurt, obviously, because that messes things up. But I think that this team has a legitimate roster that can compete. We'll see how they play this week against Boston and Cleveland.
Can you believe 5 years ago, the Knicks had one of the worst teams in the NBA? Now we're talking about them competing for a championship 5 years later.
Now they've got 2 All-Stars and competing for a championship.
You know how many years they went without having any All-Stars?
I can't believe it. And, multiple head coaches, multiple front offices. It feels good to be on this side.
When you find the right
things.
general manager and he finds the right coach, everything can turn around pretty quickly. And when and you have an excellent foundation, so this isn't like, oh, you got lucky one year. It's all about your general manager.
Hold on to your draft picks.
We'll say that again.
For the right players, and you make some good offseason moves with those draft picks. That also does wonders.
And once you build that, now good players around the league, when they become free agents, they want to come to your team instead of saying, "There's no way I'm going to the Knicks." Now they say, "Yeah, I want to be part of that."
I was watching. I didn't watch too much of the All-Star game because it just gave me a headache. It was like just so annoying to watch.
You didn't miss anything.
I know. I watched the fan hit the half-court shot to win $100,000. There's just too much talking, too much explaining of what's going on. Not enough seeing the guys I wanted to see play. But those in-between moments of the players interacting with each other, and there are a lot of guys interacting with Jalen Brunson and a lot of guys interacting with Karl Anthony Towns, and this is the first time in a long time that, players, I would think, are thinking, hey, if I could end up playing for the Knicks, that wouldn't be a bad spot to be playing. And it's been years since we had players that felt that way.
Yeah, like 50 years. Before you were born.
Well, we had that stint of Amari Stoudemire and guys like that coming here, but those weren't the top tier players. Those were like the 1A, 1B players. So here we are. First half of the season, we'll be out the gate with some heavy competition in the second half, and we'll see what happens.
Yep.
Now, the next thing we're going to talk about, baseball. Spring training has begun. All players are at their spring training sites. The Yankees, they're getting their practices in. And I'm looking forward to the season. Today, which is a Monday, is 38 days until opening day. So by the time this gets out and people are able to watch it, listen to it, it'll be 37 days until the opening day of Major League Baseball.
Can't wait.
The Yankees now already off to a little bit of a tough situation with Giancarlo Stanton, has sore elbows. He hasn't swung a bat in 3 to 4 weeks. I'm always scratching my head when guys come into spring training with injuries after having a few months off. I'm like, what have you been doing? What? Did you get that checked out? Was it hurting you at the end of the season? And did you get it checked out then and maybe discuss with the doctor a game plan to make sure that you were healthy coming into
in the
spring training in
postseason, he was
February?
tremendous. And he doesn't play a position. All he does is hit. So how do you have sore elbows? I could see a pitcher having a sore elbow, but a DH? What on earth were you doing? He was probably lifting too much. That's probably what he was doing. These guys spend too much time in the weight room and not enough time in the batting cage.
Well, he does look like he's slimmed down from the Giancarlo Stanton of a few years
that was
back
last
when he
year.
had too much muscle. Listen, when the body starts to go, the body goes. And that's just, there's no stopping it. Some people are blessed with the genetics to play into their 40s in whatever sport. And not even just sports. Like, I go to the ballet all the time, as you know. And there are dancers that I have seen for years performing. And every season, they have 3 seasons throughout the year. You know, sometimes you're like, wow, this dancer is looking a little stiff, looking a little, just the body's not working the way that it did 6 months ago during the fall season, or last year during the spring season, or even 2 years ago.
Where you going for these ballets? At some high school gym, high school auditorium?
No, I'm going to the New York City Ballet, which is one of the world's most renowned ballet companies in the world.
Excuse me.
And these people are athletes. When you see some of these ballerinas dancing on their tippy toes, listen, they're athletes. And they make it look easy. Incredible athleticism. But when the body starts to go, the body starts to go. I know it from running. These are the things that happen. So now, when we talk about the Yankees, looks like they're not going to have a DH to start the season. And right now, when you look at the roster, they technically don't have a second baseman on the roster because they have Jazz Chisholm listed as the third baseman. He's likely to move over to second base.
That's his best position, you know.
Which is his best position. But that means that there's a gaping hole at third base as well for the Yankees.
No, they have 3 guys that they'll rotate, and if somebody wins it, you have DJ, you have Peraza, and you have Cabrera. And if that doesn't work out, they'll go out and get somebody else. But why spend? Do you see how much money that Bregman just got? He got $40 million a year.
3 guys. DJ LeMahieu hasn't been good for 4 seasons.
He's been hurt.
I wouldn't exactly.
He's been hurt.
Okay. Going back to what I said, when the body starts to go, the body starts to go.
Well, then you have 2 young guys there. They're not going to hit the way he's going to hit, but they're excellent defense.
He's not the batting champion of the league anymore.
You got enough of other hitting all over the place. Don't worry about it, Swebb.
It looks like Oswaldo Cabrera, to me, would be the guy who would win out just based off of last season's performance as well. But I don't love. You got 3 guys. I would say 2.5 to fill that position. We're the New York Yankees. We're not the we're not the Detroit Tigers here.
Yeah, but they got a $300 million payroll. How much more do you want to spend? He doesn't want to spend any more money. It's enough. This is crazy.
Listen, the Yankees make the most money in the league. The Dodgers,
they're nuts.
Spend a lot of money.
Yeah, but
and guess what? They're getting results now.
Yeah, okay. They got result 1 year. The year before, they got knocked out in the first round.
Okay, and they were clearing away the better team.
And they're deferring all these guys they're signing. They're deferring those most of that money for like 10 years. What's going to happen in 10 years when all that money comes due?
Let's see what happens this spring training. I don't think that we're the type of guys that need, or the type of team that needs to keep our pockets closed if there are guys available to sign. So I'm always going to veer in the direction of spend the money. Lord knows the tickets are expensive. Lord knows it costs about $10 to get a hot dog there. It costs about $20 to get a hot dog and a bottle of water.
Well, those are good hot dogs, Swebb.
I don't even drink beer, but I think those are like $14, $15, So we want to win. Now, I'm not going to get too greedy. We got to the World Series this past year, but the Yankees are an organization that should be spending the money when there's an opportunity to. I would have liked to have seen them sign Bregman. I know that they couldn't afford him by your measure of
it's not my measure
at 300 million for the year, but I wouldn't say that I'm pleased that they have 3 guys in the rotation for third base, because I wouldn't count DJ LeMahieu. Like, I'm done with the DJ LeMahieu experiment. That, like, a few seasons ago when he was the batting champion, great. I was willing to give him like 2 more seasons after that of, okay, he's hurt, but he's still a good hitter, but he's still a good player. Now, like 3 to 4 seasons removed from that, I'm done with that experiment. So let's see what Cabrera or Peraza can do fighting for that spot. And they have a legitimate starting pitching rotation. That we do know. With Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Luis Gil, and Clark Schmidt. And then in the bullpen, they've got a legitimate I was glad to see them sign Tim Hill, re-sign him back. They signed Loizaga in the offseason. They also Devin Williams. And then you've got Luke Weaver, who ended the season as the closer. So and a bunch of other guys in there, right, that can be stopgaps from time to time. If this rotation pitches the way that they can, the rotation and the bullpen, the pitching, great. In the outfield, looks like Aaron Judge will play right field. Cody Bellinger will play center. And Jason Dominguez will play left. I'd actually like to see Dominguez play center unless he can figure out how to play left at Yankee Stadium. But it looks like it's his position to lose.
He's been down there for a few weeks already working out in left field before spring training even started.
So let's see. So there are some question marks, right? But there also are a lot of answers. I have a lot of confidence in the rotation and everyone being healthy as well to start the season. Remember last year, Garrett Cole started the season hurt. So 38 days until opening day.
Can't wait. That's my favorite sport, baseball. That's what we grew up on. Do you know in the 60s, everybody talked about baseball. We talked about baseball all the time. NBA basketball was not that big a sport in this country. And the NFL was a game on Sunday. It wasn't until they had the merging of the two leagues, the AFL and the NFL, and then they started getting in cable TV came in existence. Then you had games on all the time. College football, one game a week. That's all you got. ABC.
What's cable TV?
What do you mean, what's cable TV? Cable.
I'm kidding.
Well,
no one uses that anymore.
Well, yeah, now there's all kinds of streaming services. Every single game is either on a streaming service or on TV. Every single game. Every college game. Everything. It wasn't like that. So it was just baseball.
Don't even get me started with how much I'm paying for streaming. Plus, you have to get Wi-Fi, right? So now we're at $200 or so for one TV. Don't even get me started. Okay. Few quick hitters. The Jets, they're parting ways with Aaron Rodgers. They're not bringing Aaron Rodgers back.
Yep, they're not bringing him back, and they haven't announced what direction they're going in with a quarterback, what they're going to do, whether they're going to draft one, they're going to trade up to draft one, which would be a big mistake. Listen, you cannot bring, unless the quarterback is a guaranteed no miss, you cannot draft a quarterback high. The Jets have done that, 3-4 times now? And every one of them, after 2 years, everybody was bashing the quarterback. It doesn't work. You got to get with a more seasoned quarterback.
How come some other organizations have figured it out? The Washington Commanders figured it out this past year.
Washington's not New York. You got the
Kansas
media
City
here all over these guys. Do you watch these press conferences after these games?
Baltimore figured it out.
Baltimore's not New York. New York.
Philadelphia figured it out.
No. Hurts sat on the bench for a few years, and they drafted him on the second round. Okay? It's different in New York. It's different. The media's all over you. They're antagonistic. Then it gets the fans riled up. And before you know, unless the guy has absolute success and the quarterback position, it's almost impossible to have absolute success right out the bat. In the New York market. This isn't a New
York thing. This is a Jets thing. This isn't a New York thing. The Jets have never had the proper, we talk about front office and coaching.
True.
When you have a revolving door every 3 years of those two positions,
that's true.
It affects the way that you draft, and it also affects player development because you're bringing in not just once the head coach comes in, now a bunch of new position coaches come in. So this isn't a New York market thing. This is a Jets organizational thing.
Okay, that's true.
So I'm curious to see
but if you notice,
what they do.
All these quarterbacks that failed here, as soon as they go to some other team, look at Sam Darnold. He made the Pro Bowl this year. Look at the guy that's on Seattle now. What's his name?
I'm not Geno Smith. I'm not sold. I'm not completely sold on Sam Darnold because if you watched him during the playoffs, that looked like the guy we remember. Okay, so
yeah, but at least he got them to the
Vikings,
playoffs. We haven't been in the playoffs in 14
Vikings
years.
Had talent in all different areas, both defensively and offensively on the field. So once the playoffs came back, there's Sammy D. And that's going to affect him in free agency because a lot of people don't know who they're going to get. Are you going to get the guy you got that was had a Pro Bowl season in the regular season? Or are you going to get the guy who you've seen historically for the past couple of years that reemerged in the playoffs? So I'm not completely sold on that one, but I don't think this is a New York market thing. This is more an organizational thing that if once you're changing coaches every 3 years, not only does it affect who you draft, but it affects the development of those players.
That's a good point.
So hey, maybe there's a free agent veteran quarterback that can come in and, play and also mentor the Jets draft pick from last year. But, I mean, like, how many years in a row are we going to be rebuilding? Like, we're in a constant state of rebuilding. We've been in a decade worth of rebuilding. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to baseball season and the culmination of the NBA season, and that's what I've got because I don't feel like being aggravated. There's a good chance I might not even have a team in March Madness this year.
We'll see. North Carolina still has a few more games.
Well, quickly on North Carolina, they are 15-11. They play on Wednesday versus NC State. They've got 6 games left in the regular season before the ACC tournament kicks off. 5 of the 6 games are winnable games, but hey, we've been watching Carolina all season, and there have been a lot of winnable games that they've ended up losing. But to close out the season, they've got UVA, FSU, Miami, Virginia Tech, and they end the regular season with Duke, as they do historically. UVA, FSU, Miami, Virginia Tech, all winnable games. They're all under 500 or just around 500 with their record on the season. Duke could be a huge win that maybe catapults them if they're able to close out the season on a streak, able to catapult them with a strong showing in the ACC tournament into the NCAA tournament. But hey, from what I've seen, I'm not really putting my chips in any baskets here. I'm just going to take each game for what it is. It's a roller coaster.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I spent a lot of money going to watch them play this year all over the country. And, man, what a waste.
What a waste is right. Maybe you should
I picked
apply
the wrong
for that GM role.
I picked the wrong season.
You should apply for that GM role.
I could do that. I could do that role. Because it involves raising money from the donors. I have an eye for talent. Finding the right players to sign. And it does not just talent-wise. It's got to be the right personality and fit. Swebb, I got that. And what else? Oh, and then helping to close the deals with the parents and stuff. Come on, Swebb. Who could do that? They don't call Mariano.
If I were to look at your resume, it doesn't have any sort of applicable besides the sales experience for you to get to the interview process.
Oh, and I know the history of the basketball program since 1968.
So maybe we should make a resume tape for you where you put together your ideal roster, because part of it too is making sure that the guys end up coming here.
Making sure who comes here?
The players. The right players.
I could do that, Swebb. I could do that. I'm made for the job.
Okay. All right. Well, you're going to have to work on your sales pitch because right now I'm not sold.
Trust me. Yeah, but I'm not trying to sell anything right now, Swebb.
You always need to be trying to sell things. You never know who's watching.
I could sell Saris.
What if Hubert Davis decides to tune into this episode?
Listen, I impressed Mitch Kupchak a few months ago at Madison Square Garden, okay?
Okay.
When I got to perform.
Did he tell you that directly?
When the lights come on, Swebb. Stick with me, kid.
All right. Whatever you say. So anything else you're looking forward to this upcoming week, Dad? You're coming back to New York.
Yeah. See my people. You have time for me?
All right.
You have time for me? What do I have to do?
No. I'm actually booked and busy this weekend. I just saw you this past weekend. I don't really need to see you this upcoming weekend. All right? We're good. I'll see you in April.
Yeah.
And I'll see you every week on this. Not to mention the countless text messages that you send throughout the day.
Oh, Swebb. Now, you saw your niece play basketball on Saturday, right?
I did.
I'm telling you, Swebb. Remember, I just said I have an eye for talent. An 8-year-old, well, she's going to be 9 on Wednesday. But I'm telling you, I've seen her play a bunch of different.
Working with her?
I've seen her play 2 different sports since I've been down here: lacrosse and basketball. A star could be on the horizon, Swebb.
All right.
Just have to give her a little more aggressiveness. I can take care of that program.
Well, you got to be awake when you're around them. It seemed like the only time that you were awake was when the UNC game was on when we were at their house. So.
I wake up at the most important times, Swebb.
Whatever you say. All right, before we close things out, do you want to leave us with a dad tip of the week?
You know, I had a real good one last week, but we didn't tape, and I should have written it down. You know, I'm getting a little old, Swebb. Get off my lawn.
So basically, your tip
I had a real good one.
When you have a good idea, write it down.
Yes, if you have a good idea, write it down. And I usually do that. And I had a real good one. I'll remember it and bring it next week, Swebb. I mean, it would have knocked your socks off. It was so good.
The suspense is killing me. I cannot wait for you to remember and then forget again.
I mean, it was real good.
Okay. Well, I look forward to hearing your tip for next week. This week, it's when you have a great idea, write it down so you don't forget it.
Yeah.
And that concludes our 50th episode of Dad and Swebb Talk Sports. Be sure to follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X, and subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and share this episode with a friend. We will see you next week.
So long.
Thank you for tuning into Dad and Swebb Talk Sports, the show where we cover all of our favorite sports moments from the past week. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X. See you next week.